Inshallah.
The Great Mosque of Xi'an and the other mosques in the area serve the Hui Muslim community of Xi'an. Upon first appearances, the mosque resembles a pretty standard layout Ming or Qing dynasty temple, the entire complex being made up of several courtyards leading into one another through memorial archways, pavilions and halls, all following clear lines of symmetry. There are, however, some alterations. Most notably, Chinese palaces or Buddhist temples, etc., tend to follow a north-south axis, whereas the Great Mosque lies east to west to ensure its alignment with Mecca. Also, this structure, the tallest in the complex, and what clearly looks like a Chinese pavilion, is in fact the mosque's minaret. So I just found a little quiet spot. I don't want to bother people too much. Actually, it's really quiet in here. There's hardly anyone here, just me and a few others. So this mosque is famous for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is one of the oldest mosques in China. It originally dates from 742 AD, Tang Dynasty China that is. Although most of the buildings you see today are a little bit, they're newer than that, more like Ming or Qing Dynasty. But it still has a lot of kind of relics from the old times, old stone steles and stuff like that. So that's one of the main reasons it's so famous, because it is incredibly old. But it's also one of the best preserved mosques of China's ancient mosques, and it's largest. Of all the ancient mosques in China, it is the largest mosque. It is vast. The courtyard itself, considering it's hidden in these small little alleyways, and to be honest, if you're walking through the Muslim court, you can't really see it until until you're basically in it. I think a lot of people actually just kind of walk past it, really, souvenir shopping, and don't really even notice it's there. But it's this huge, huge, huge area. Great place to walk around, and it's I've lived here a long time in Xi'an, so I've been here a number of times, and it's one of my favorite places in Xi'an to visit. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and especially when you bear in mind where you are in Xi'an, right in the middle, because the Muslim quarter is so noisy and busy and full of people, and then you've got this lovely little spot here. It's wonderful. The original mosque of 742 AD was probably more authentically Islamic in style than what we see today. It was during this mosque's Ming dynasty rebuild that elements of both Chinese architecture and Islamic requirements were combined. The courtyards, similar to a lot of religious sites in China, are full of carved stone tablets. These stele, a word that I mispronounced until recently, are carved in both Arabic and Chinese characters. Actually, the courtyards of the mosque are full of stone-carved artwork, many featuring animals, both real and mystical. The dragon, that oh-so-Chinese symbol, makes several appearances. Outside of China, artwork featuring living creatures is pretty rare in the Islamic world. So Xi'an's had a pretty large Muslim population for a long time, since the Tang Dynasty. And as with a lot of China's early Muslim populations, actually the story of how they came to be is actually quite interesting. So at the height of the Tang Dynasty, in 755 AD, China was without doubt the most powerful nation on earth. Wealthy, prosperous. It was a golden age, as they call it here in China. And then a rebellion broke out led by a guy called An Lushan, and it basically almost brought the entire dynasty to its knees. It basically almost ended it. And this guy, who was a general who had risen very high in the ranks of the Tang Dynasty army, and was much favoured by the emperor as well. Anyway, eventually, I guess, delusions of grandeur, he decided to rebel, and within a year, by 756, actually his forces had taken the capital of Chang'an, which was right here in Xi'an, and the emperor, one of China's most famous emperors, Emperor Xuanzong, Tang Xuanzong, he fled, and he went to Sichuan with his very famous story. I'll save that for another video. But he fled and basically retired and ceased being the emperor. And one of his sons became the new emperor. He became Tang Suzong. And what he did, because obviously the empire was wrecked at this point, he was basically handed a ruined country to take care of. He wrote letters to a lot of his allies around the world. And he wrote one letter to a guy called Al-Mansur, who was the leader of the Abbasid Caliphate. He was also the founder of Baghdad as well, and he basically begging for help, for assistance. and he sent 4,000 Arab troops, mercenaries, like very high-end soldiers, and they came and ultimately did help the Tang forces retake their capital and end the rebellion. And as a kind of a thank you, the remaining mercenaries, whoever was left, they were allowed to stay if they wanted to in China and settle down, and many of them did, by all accounts, and stayed, married Chinese women. And these people are said to be the kind of the founders of a lot of the early Chinese Muslim communities. I'm sure Xi'an is no exception, given that this was the capital of the empire at the time. So there has been a quite large Muslim population in Xi'an for over 1,000 years, well over 1,000 years. And as a result, we do have these places in Xi'an. The whole Muslim quarter, there are about 10 mosques in the Muslim quarter, active mosques obviously, and they're interesting places to visit.